up, you guys? It's Tao Sin, the art of sin, the artisan, you already know. And today we are finally uploading the video I've been doing all my lives on, doing all this research for about identity theft, theft of the black identity. So let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Good morning.
Tao Sin, yeah, I'm back again. They tried to slow me down, but I'm destined to win.
Quick wit. Yeah, I'm about to talk my
Oh, your girl might be something, but she not like this.
talk like this, walk like this, and little do y'all know that's really true confidence. Letting myself shine. I see why I get hate.
Walking past your man, he hit me with that triple take. Since the inception of humanity, the one thing that drove humans to succeed was their purpose. When we were cavemen, that purpose was simply to find food and shelter. Finding some berries that didn't kill you and figuring out how to make fire to grill some tiger meat was good enough to make sure that we could procreate and continue our lineage. Now, we face a different set of challenges toward achieving our purpose. That which often involves fulfilling a feeling you may only feel deep within your soul. Some people call this drive or ambition. That ambition is closely tied to your species, in essence, who you truly are. But if you lose sight of who you are, how could you possibly know what your ambitions are supposed to be? And this is the problem that all of humanity faces today. A lot of people are victims of identity theft and simply don't know it. But because I am a black woman, I can only truly speak to the way this identity theft has completely gutted the black community. Where we were once a thriving unit, making progressive strides in philosophy, technology, agriculture, and education alongside the rest of humanity as equals. Somehow we have fallen from grace, our identity and image only a shadow of our true selves. Ever since the beginning of the Middle Ages, a little over 1,000 years ago, our identity has been mercilessly attacked and whittled down to nothing more than Instagram thoughts and violent thugs. Attacking and controlling our image essentially controls the mindset of every human being on this planet. And I know that sounds like a little bit of an obtuse observation, but turn it up. It's fact. It's not opinion. And with our image being controlled and displayed as less than, contributes to the overall degradation of society. But why is this happening? Well, like I said earlier, simply for control. The concept of control over other beings has shifted throughout time. However, Frank Snowden Jr., a famed historian, notes that the ancients did not fall into the era of biological racism. Black skin color was not a sign of inferiority. Greeks and Romans did not establish color as an obstacle to integration in society. An ancient society was one that, for all its faults and failures, never made color the basis for judging a man. That's right. Racism simply did not exist until the Middle Ages began in 476 AD. The Middle Ages brought on a complete and utter decline in society and worldwide relations, in such a way that the very beginning of the Middle Ages is called the Dark Ages, because of the way the European ideals forced regression on the places they infiltrated and conquered. During the Common Era, from 8 BCE to 6 AD, Black people were actually just seen as people. This is where we observe ancient artifacts depicting Black people in art, sculptures, and housewares, commonly alongside other races all over the world. Classical antiquity, to many historians, is noted as an age of grandeur and glory. Trade was a common practice, and not only did people buy and sell goods specific to different regions and countries, but ideas and information were exchanged that allowed the collective consciousness to grow and transform for the better. Black people were able to contribute to this in monumental ways. often sharing knowledge, techniques, and technology that guided our people since the inception of humanity. This attribute was heralded, so much so that it was a common theme to consider Black people as divine beings. Homer, a famed poet of ancient Greece, went so far as to describe Black people as semi divine, and that our country served as an oasis for the gods. Al Masudi, Al Masudi, Al Mazudi, I don't know, a famed historian, often referred to as the Herodotus of Arabs. I don't even know if I'm saying Herodotus right. Herodotus. Herodotus? That was him. Of the Arabs. Provides valuable insight into the way Black people were seen even as early as 903 in the Common Era. He calls Hindu people a type of Black people, not a type of religion, saying that the Hindus are distinct from all other Black people in point of intellect, government, philosophy, strength of constitution, and purity of color. Today, we see Hinduism as a type of religion. I was today years old when I discovered that the word Hindu was actually used to describe a group of Black people first, whose way of life was so inspirational and so righteous that it influenced the world around it to claim that identity as a religion for all people to follow, should they choose to. And it's beautiful, but it's so sad to see that our identity had been completely siphoned out of it. It's also intentional. The Emissary, a YouTuber who created a lovely and in-depth analysis of his own lineage and background that I highly recommend that you watch because honestly, any video that starts like this
This is a tale about us. This is the story about a people who used to worship black gods, but ended up worshiping white men.
is gonna be a banger. In his video, he also discovers the ubiquity of black skin in antiquity. That is, it was that it was heralded within India and surrounding areas and not seen as a negative aspect until, once again, the Middle Ages. A quote he finds from Marco Polo states that Indians esteem blackness the perfection of beauty. The images of their deities they represent black, but the devil they paint white, and assert that all demons are of that color. Damn. Don't shoot the messenger, because that quote shocked me too. But hey, that's what he saw, and that's what it was. Another quote he displays from a Francis Xavier notes that, for as there is so great a variety of color among men, and the Indians being black themselves, consider their own color the best. They believe their gods are black. On this account, the great majority of their idols are black as black can be. And while this Francis Xavier did not agree with this viewpoint, it's interesting to see how black skin was viewed all over the world as divine. And being divine does not mean living as a nun or not allowing yourself to live a fun and exciting life. The divinity you possess is within you, it's you. The ingenuity we possess, the resilience that has kept us going for centuries, the rhythm in our dance, the exquisite taste of our cuisines, the soul in our voices, the strength of our communities and family, the versatility and strength of our hair, the light in our eyes, the beauty of our skin tones in all of our shades, the grandeur in our stride makes you truly divine. And it's time for you to accept that and throw away the identity that has been created for us to keep us controlled. But how did this happen and why did it start? With the injection of Christianity into different cultures and regions beyond Europe, this began the decline of society. Hidden behind a thin veil of righteousness, Christians perverted the utility of divinity, using it as an excuse to commit horrible crimes against humanity instead of using it to generate new ideas, principles, technology, and practices that contribute to the progression of all humanity. In 325 AD, Council of Nicaea came together and pieced together religious texts and practices from ancient religions all over the world, most notably ancient African religions practiced in Egypt. They called this bastardization of traditional religions the Holy Bible and used this as an excuse to call themselves divine beings. It's not until the birth of Christianity that we begin to see white saints, angels, and a white Jesus. Only 151 years later, the Roman Empire falls. We see the rise of Byzantine empires, Anglo Saxon and Frankish kingdoms, and the Dark Ages begin. These people explored the world and saw our traditional practices as a way to control people and not as a tool to be guided by a higher power. The consistent perversion of religion has thus created the lost and misguided society that we live in today. During this time, philosophy and deep meditative thinking is replaced with Christianity, and classism is introduced. It is a time synonymous with an overall decline in learning, cultural advancement, and technological progress. It's the very reason why the time period is called the Dark Ages, a term coined during the Renaissance by Petrarch to describe the stark juxtaposition of their current climate to the former glory of the classical period. And it's important to note this decline in social, educational, and philosophical advancement generally only pertain to one particular region of the world, but we'll touch on that later. Classism is introduced in the form of a feudal system, which develops a wealth gap that allows the elites to live in literal delusions of grandeur, while grandeur, grandeur? I don't say that word two, three times, and I don't know if I'm saying it right. You know what? I learned that word from Lil B. I'm probably gonna put his voice over every time I say Ranger, because I know he said it right.
Grandeur.
Anyway, while working class citizens lived in filth and squalor, bringing on one of the most catastrophic global phenomenon known to date, known as the bubonic plague, which eliminated almost 30% of the European population at the time. As classism continues to permeate the social climate, a new form of classism, racism, or believing that an individual is more or less valuable based upon the color of their skin, is introduced. The introduction of these divisions of class and race was actually thought of as barbaric during the early Middle Ages. Scholars that witnessed these drastic changes understood it for what it was: the degradation of society. The people of the Middle Ages squandered the advancements of their predecessors, this argument went, and mired themselves instead in what 18th century English historian Edward Gibbon called barbarism and religion. Do I need to read that again? The Middle Ages also produced the Crusades, a period of tumult and war and killing of many innocent people. To expand an empire, these wars were simply over what two groups of people believed to be right as far as religion goes. No one won the Crusades. In fact, many thousands of people from both sides lost their lives. They did make ordinary Catholics across Christendom feel like they had a common purpose, and they inspired waves of religious enthusiasm among people who might otherwise have felt alienated from the official church. Did you hear that? A sense of purpose. Before classism was introduced, people operated out of their true purpose. You were an artist because you had that skill. You were a philosopher because you had the propensity to think deeply. You were a leader because you were noble and disciplined. People operating from their true purpose generated the originality and ingenuity that we crave today. With classism, people were given responsibilities based upon their proximity to people in power, propped up in roles that were not ever intended for them to hold. In essence, identity theft. Being able to dabble in arts, science, philosophy, and esoteric knowledge was now reserved for the ruling class and those closely adjacent to it. And these ideals were often skewed to favor a certain agenda. The same type of propaganda we see today that aims to keep the population under control or ignorant to what's going on around them, while a few greedy bastards hoard wealth and resources. During the Middle Ages, this looked like painting Jews and Muslims as monsters or barbaric creatures to incite violence and bias during the Crusades and onwards. Think about it. Why have Caucasians had such an irrational fear of Middle Eastern people and disdain for Jewish people for so long? This is just upholding an ongoing smear campaign that was started centuries ago in an effort to manipulate innocent citizens to fight for what an elite ruling class wanted that really wasn't even the best interest of their entire population. And this cruel disregard for humanity is what plunged European cultures into darkness. Remember, I said we would touch back on a previous topic that only a particular group of people were facing a decline in education and health during the Middle Ages? Because we all learned about the Middle Ages in school, right? And it all focused on Europe and the Renaissance and European kings and queens and yada.
The importance of the castle is as much to oppress the psyche of the population as it is to literally oppress the population.
Yada yada da 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 da. But guess what was going on in Africa, the Middle East, India, and Asia, basically the entire rest of the globe during this time? In the Islamic Empire, the Islamic world was growing larger and more powerful. After the Prophet Muhammad's death, mashallah, in 632 CE, Muslim armies conquered large parts of the Middle East, uniting them under the rule of a single caliph. At its height, the medieval Islamic world was more than 3 times bigger than all of Christendom. Islam spread to northern Africa. In fact, scholars translated Greek, Iranian, and Indian texts into Arabic. Inventors devised technologies like the pinhole camera, soap, windmills, some original ones that are still used today, surgical instruments, and an early flying machine. And religious scholars and mystics translated, interpreted, and taught the Quran and other scriptural texts to people across the Middle East. The rest of Africa during the Middle Ages was actually experiencing a booming and robust golden age during this time. Literally, it's called the African Golden Age. So while Europe was in the Dark Ages, Africa was having its golden age. And I really want to know, why do you think we didn't learn about that?
It was all a lie. Guys, it was all a lie.
Let's be for real. Economies expanded by trading with the growing Muslim empire and already established Chinese empire. Thriving kingdoms such as the Kingdom of Mali was established during the 13th century. Do you know who the ruler of the Kingdom of Mali was? The richest man in all of recorded history, Mansa Musa. Massive empires such as the empires of Ghana, Zimbabwe, and Shanghai boasted robust trading networks with Arabic, Chinese, and Indian empires. So literally, the entire globe continued to grow and thrive as normal. Like, niggas was literally flying, bro, after the fall of the Roman Empire, except for one small area of the globe that somehow managed to regress itself to a level of pestilence and squalor not previously observed in humanity. I mean, even animals cover up their shit after they done. This practice of depicting, marginalizing, and defaming groups that outperformed Europeans during the Middle Ages has continued to be used to control the populace ever since. I mean, I wonder why we didn't learn that people of color were markedly more advanced, civilized, and cultured than their European counterparts that were tossing feces in the streets and bathed in cologne instead of actual soap and water. Who would benefit from that? Who would really benefit from that? Let's be for real. The bastardization and outright perversion of knowledge, that is, reserving basic skills like reading and writing for the elite, while completely distorting any information given to the public, left the European populace in squalor, regressing exponentially and creating a highly violent and aggressive atmosphere that slowly permeated throughout the globe. This violent, ignorant behavior culminated with the rise of literal barbarians, whose outlandish behavior eventually toppled empires, restricting global trade, forcing countries to close off borders simply to protect their inhabitants from wayward, aggressive behavior that clearly was not the norm at the time. But somehow, Africans living peacefully in their own villages were the ones painted as savages. Unfortunately, Christian-based kingdoms only put a battery in the back of the Islamic Empire. After the death of Muhammad, the Islamic faith was perverted just like Christianity, using their beliefs as a symbol of status and an excuse to go to war with and enslave any group of people that were not Muslim. This gave rise to the largest and longest running slave trade in recorded history. They often castrated males, stole children from villages, sold women as concubines. This violent and aggressive behavior became synonymous with being advanced. Progression no longer meant making contributions to the health, education, or connection to divinity for humanity, but instead how quickly and effectively they could tear it all down. And the ultimate tool they discovered to keep a populace controlled was by controlling the mind of the people they were responsible for, taking your purpose and replacing it with grueling work for scarce resources. And guess what? The government does not care about your general well being or even how you are perceived to the rest of the world or how this affects your quality of life, so long as they can have control and have wielded this tool against the general public for centuries. After mutilating the religious systems that guided Black people by destroying our concept of divinity, European nations doubled down and began destroying the Black identity itself. This not only destroys the confidence and self esteem of Black people, but also emboldens people of a lighter complexion around the globe to take action against us based on these wayward beliefs. But where did this never ending humiliation begin? During the 18th century, the king of clowns, Joseph Grimaldi, began his career. One of his many roles was a blackface noble savage that depicted Black people in an inferior light. Grimaldi also created the concept of the modern day clown that we see today. The idea took off, and soon a special form of propaganda was created just for Black people called minstrelsy. The Black identity became sensationalized and commodified, a craze that permeated every facet of American culture. Gone were the days of Black people being depicted as equals or described as semi-divine. Minstrelsy became a tool to degrade Black people and make them seem shiftless, lowly, and ignorant. Grisly depictions of ourselves became plastered all over the globe in music, postcards, newspaper advertisements, live theater, TV shows, dolls, keepsakes, even in our legislature. Yes, legislature, as in the law. Did you know that Jim Crow was nothing more than a minstrel character? So think about that. The Jim Crow laws that were abolished only 60 years ago now were named after a blackface character. Think about how much of a fucking joke people will have to see you as to name a law as a cartoon character pertaining to your identity. That would be like passing the Eric Cartman laws to try and curtail obesity, the SpongeBob laws to protect marine wildlife. What if Trump decided to pass the Dora the Explorer laws to enforce his immigration policies? Isn't that fucked up? And if people can be convinced to eat literal Tide Pods, what do you think videos like this?
Sir, grab me that monkey. But sir, it's having lunch. Grab me that monkey.
But there I saw so many gals I couldn't get.
You heard me?
Folks will be laughing with you in a little while, so whistle a tune.
Hell nah, shawty, that ain't no switch, shawty.
Try to fight me. Yeah, my life a movie.
Does to the global psyche and how Black people are perceived all over the world.
You got me fucked up. I'm sitting here going into the parking lot asking if you.
Fuck is this?
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
Wait, guys.
You're gonna love it. Woo, 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 woo,
Go back to your country. Nigger, 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 nigger. Do you eat watermelon? I'm going to send this to my boyfriend because he's white and he's your master.
Exactly. Mind you, Jim Crow laws were abolished in 1965. My mother was born in 1968, for context. How many of your relatives are at least 60 years old? This is why it is so important to understand who you are and who you are not. Perpetrating Black people in an unsavory light is a detriment to society. Not only are you showing people how ignorant you are to what you're participating in, there are a lot of Caucasian people who are also at least 60 years old, and they have very fond memories of old Jim Crow and all the minstrel things that went on during that time. So think about that every time you see something like this.
Hey, say, Ken.
And know that someone, somewhere, is laughing inside because you remind them of a time when minstrelsy and blackface was the norm.
There was a fox who left his lair, a red fox again.
The shiftless, lazy, and ignorant image of us continues to change to fit whatever means of control the government wants to subject us to, which is why violence and aggression has been added to the modern day minstrel character. This is how racial profiling became so prevalent in American culture because it gave certain people a reason to try and keep Black people in check before we even become aggressive or violent. Even worse than that, this depiction of Black people being rude, crass, and aggressive has been displayed in mainstream media so much that even Black people believe they are supposed to behave like that. And of course, it's trickling down to all other races and ethnic groups that think cosplaying as Black is cool. The part that pisses me off the most is that when other races copy our style and aesthetic, it's often a gross, over-the-top perversion of who they think you are. The aggressiveness, hypersexuality, lack of intelligence, or emotional maturity, yeah, they think of you that way. And it's not funny, it's not cute, and no, they can't come to no mother cookout. Especially when we continue to be discriminated against, racially profiled, and systematically oppressed for being the very thing every other race loves to copy. Other races use the way we were forced to survive as a way for them to act out or rebel, an outlet for unnecessary violence and ignorance, not realizing that Black people's demeanor and aesthetic today are a direct result of systematic racism that has been used against us since the Middle Ages. Ebonics come from our schools being put at a disadvantage for generations. The way we dress and style our hair is because we historically couldn't afford or weren't even allowed to enter the same stores as white people in America. And all that pent up rage and aggression comes from being mocked generation after generation for the way we found a way to thrive after every opportunity had been stripped from us. Our identity is not your plaything. It's not an era. It's not an aesthetic. We have to understand these tropes have been fed to us and to keep us from reaching our true potential and dreams. It is going to take a lot of work to figure out who you are and who mainstream media has told you to be. But I promise you will be able to do it. And this is why I'm making this video. So you can at least start to recognize which behaviors you only participate in because it's being forced on you. You are not lazy. You're bored out of your fucking mind, and you need to figure out what your hobbies are so you can have something to do besides doom scrolling on your phone and bed rotting all day. You're not stupid. You have the ability to learn. Our school systems were purposely put at a disadvantage to put you at a disadvantage. Use the internet to learn what you don't know about. I mean, you learned something new today, didn't you? You are not a thug. Resources are purposely withheld from our communities to force you to fight over fucking scraps. Build up your community to be self-sustainable instead of fighting each other. Black people, start taking the time to be still and think about what truly interests you, what truly makes you feel a sense of purpose without looking on social media first. Then start building up your identity from there. For me, I like anthropology, history, and art. That's why I was able to spend hours every day researching and putting this video together. It's easy because it's my passion. And by nurturing my passion, I'm able to create and produce a unique contribution to the world. This wasn't a laborious task for me. I loved every second of this. Find those things that you can dive into for hours and hours at a time that feeds your soul. those things that wake you up in the morning, and use it to your advantage. It's time to reclaim the identity we had when we were aptly seen as equals with everyone else in the world, contributing to the arts, science, agriculture, community, philosophy, mathematics, and the like. The identity that was so awe-inspiring, it led proficient poets like Homer to describe our entirety as semi-divine. Semi-divine is a long way from this.
Yeah.
The other reason why blackface and minstrelsy is dangerous is because it forces you as a black person to give up on your true ambitions, goals, and desires, your purpose. God did not place you on this planet to be an Instagram thought or a drug dealer. I promise. That is not why you got put here. Black people, you are going to see this video and start recognizing what digital blackface and minstrelsy is so you can stop letting it influence you and stop engaging with that type of content. You're going to see this video and start diving into those hobbies, crafts, and ambitions that fuel your soul. Passions you have turned your back on to fit into the mold that people have created for you to keep you under control. Black people, you are going to stop bullying other black people for having a hobby, interest, or an aesthetic that is not the same as yours. You're going to see this video and understand that the way you talk is black because you're black. The way you dress is black because you're black. The things you create and put into this world is black because you are black. Stop pushing original ideas and ambitions to the side because it doesn't fit the mold other people want to see you in. Because everybody else wants to see you fail, just so they can succeed. Don't believe me? Go back to the beginning of this video because you were not paying attention. I mean, aren't y'all tired of bullshit like
Brother, I always wanted a brother.
What was that?
Oh Lord, it's the queen bee.
Regina George.
Don't look her in the eye.
we're seeing in real time how this mindset creates the dystopian world we currently live in, when we could be creating new and fulfilling ways of life if you free yourself from that cage. This is why we see so much nostalgia content, yearning for a time when we had originality and ingenuity. But that won't happen if we look to social media and propaganda to tell us who we are. I mean, it's 2025. You can literally Google your hobby or whatever interests you, and it will show you exactly where you can go to do just that thing. And guess what? Other people will be there enjoying doing that thing. Stop letting people tell you who you are. That's literally how you lose. James Baldwin, a famed American civil rights activist, says this best from his book, The Fire Next Time. He writes, "You can only be destroyed by believing that you really are what the white world calls a nigga. I tell you this because I love you. And please, don't you ever forget it."
Turned your baby daddy down and he still want me. He came and begged you for it and he said he really want me. And she was bad, I'm not gonna lie, she had some shape on it. I fucked them open, then I ghosted, had to move with that. Cause they both got addicted and I cannot move like that. They looking for me but they can't find me, John Cena. In summer 16 I touched down in a Beamer. In 2025 I'll be filling up arenas. Need to walk up in my dreams just to get this track. You sold your soul to the devil and your shit